So if you brought your family Bible, your own personal Bible, open it up will you to Matthew, or find in the pew rack in front of you, church Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, right side of the book. I'll give you an opportunity. Matthew chapter 2. I'm going to start at verse 7. I see it's also on the screens, and so that's fine for those of you who want to see it, touch it. Let me just give you a chance. I think you're going to recognize this story. I think last Sunday you probably heard something about the birth of Christ, right? Just nod if you're with me. If not, I'll go back and I'll catch up. Jesus was born. There we go. So that's all we need for today. So verse 7. Herod is also King Herod the Great. There were several Herod kings in this time period. So this one is King Herod the Great. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. Herod sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and make a careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, the Magi went on their way, and the star they had seen in the east went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Well, when they had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," the angel said. "Take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt, where he stayed until the death of Herod. And so was fulfilled what the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." When King Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Then what was said through the prophet Jeremiah was fulfilled. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping in great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted because they are no more." After Herod died, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother and go to the land of Israel, for those who were trying to take the child's life are dead." So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when Joseph heard that Archelaus was reigning in Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophets. He will be called a Nazarene. These are the words of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Would you pray with me? Gracious Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable unto thy sight. Lord, let your Holy Spirit teach. May we be receptive vessels to understand your clear voice on our hearts and minds. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I hope that the Christmas season for you was fantastic. I want to share my Christmas season with you because after 20-something years in ministry, I will never, ever forget this Christmas season. The events in it were just so other that I can't even, it's one of those things you can't believe these kind of things would happen, but they did. And what I learned again is that if we take Jesus seriously, then that makes all the difference in the world. It all began on December 9th. And before I go too much further, I might want to say this right now. I want to say and ask your permission. What happens in Ashburn stays in Ashburn. Because I want to be honest with you, and I want to be clear with what I was doing and where I was doing it. Because it's just one of these kind of stories that it just needs to be right here. Would you agree with that? Because if not, headlines are going to go out things like "Pastor steals Jesus," and I don't want to see that. Maybe clergyman caught with hand and cradle. That's not going to work. Pastor baby Jesus on road trip. So if you'll agree with me, I'll share stories, and I'll be transparent and honest. But let's just keep them right here. Good? Please nod. That way I know you're okay with this. All right. December 9th, just like you, I went to worship. And our youngest daughter, Katie, almost 16, and I went through this Advent worship service. And after the service, we went into the narthex, the gathering space, just like you have. And there was on the table a nativity scene. Both of us gravitated towards it like interested people, and we looked in, and there we saw Mary and Joseph, and the donkey, and the wise men, and the manger, and Jesus in the manger on December 9th. And so I looked over at Katie, and I saw on her face that look that says, what are they thinking? It's December 9th. We just spent a whole hour, and honestly not the most exciting hour either, getting prepared, getting excited, getting expectant for the coming of December 25th, the birth of Christ. And so how in the world could Jesus already be the manger? Well, I agree. And I lost my presence of mind. I just reached into the nativity set and I picked Jesus up. He was not glued to the manger, that was nice. And I took him and I put him in the back left corner behind the hay. And I looked over and there was this look on her face like, that's exactly right. Dad, you are the best pastor ever. You are the most wonderful father ever. Did I tell you I love you and I'm going to wash your car later? We walked out of the narthex there with this contented look on our face, as if we had done what was right and good, and we had stepped the Christmas season back on his pedestal. That was December 9th. December 10th, I went to church, because I'm on staff at being a Presbyterian church. And so I went in, and I wasn't thinking what happened the day before. I just kind of wandered through the narthex, the gathering space, going upstairs to the third floor where I teach a Monday night men's group to about 900 guys. And as I was walking through, absentmindedly, I looked over. There was Jesus. Back in the manger. And I thought, how in the world could that have happened? And so again, I lost my presence of mind. I just walked over, and I reached in, and I picked him up. I didn't look around to see if I was being filmed. I just picked Jesus up. And I thought, well, the hay didn't work. That's not a good hiding spot. And so I walked behind the counter and reached way up on the top shelf over there by the hymnals that no one ever uses. And I hid it. And I didn't think anything else of it. I just went upstairs. I taught the class. I went about my business. And I thought, that's sufficient. Whoever was looking for Jesus found him, but not twice. But the question began to be on my mind is, where's Jesus? Somebody was asking, where's Jesus? And they found him and they put him back. And I thought, well, now they're going to have this conversation. They're going to look again. And they're going to say, well, where's Jesus? And I thought, theologically, this is appropriate for the season of Advent. It's biblical. It's biblical. King Herod was asked the question, where's Jesus? By the Magi. These wise men who are really astronomers. They were looking at the heavens, they saw an unusual star, they went to Jerusalem where King Herod was, and they said, where's Jesus? He says, well, I don't know, where is Jesus? Who is Jesus for that matter? And they said, well, he's the king, he's going to be the king of the Jews. Now, you know what? One king in one territory is about all you can stand. And so Herod sends the Magi to go find out where this new king is. And the Magi go. But the question was on everyone's minds, where's Jesus? And these wise men, we think there are three, only because there's three gifts. You heard it in the scriptures this morning, right? Frankincense, gold, and myrrh. There could have been two kings carrying three gifts. One king, you get the math. Well, we say there are three kings, and so we put that in our nativity scenes, and that's fine. But you can imagine, they're asking the question along the route. Where's this new king? Where's Jesus? They get there, they see the king, but what's on my mind as I had moved Jesus once again is that there's at least one person, there may be several at the Presbyterian church, now who are asking the question. Because someone had put Jesus in the manger there where they thought he should be, but that's not where Jesus should be on December 9th and December 10th. Well, moving ahead, a week later, I had forgotten all about Jesus. You heard it first from a pastor right here. I had forgotten all about it. Come on. Haven't you done that? I'm just joining you. And so as I came out of worship, I happened to look over and I saw the nativity set, and I thought, I wonder. So I moved closer, and from a distance I could see Jesus was back. Now listen, I get him pretty well. And so the idea in my mind, who in the world? It's the Jesus police. They're after him. And it couldn't be just one person because this was pretty high up on the shelf. So I thought to myself, teams of people in this church are now searching for Jesus. And I thought, that's not bad. For a church, for Christians to search for Jesus, theologically. Now listen, I shouldn't have taken him, I understand. I should have told somebody when I did take him the first time. I shouldn't have taken him the second time, but now I was on a mission. So I moved towards the nativity set with all intentions of taking Jesus yet the third time. But they had upped the ante. The stakes had been raised because there were two pastors guarding Jesus. I could not get to Jesus without going through two pastors. My friends, my colleagues, how can I tell them I've been taking Jesus? I couldn't do it. So I waited. I could not believe how long these pastors could have that conversation, whatever it was, in front of the baby Jesus. They probably were not there on the stakeout, you know. They probably were not guarding. They were just having a conversation. But I thought, don't they have something better to do? On Sunday morning, shouldn't they teach? Shouldn't they preach? Shouldn't they go pray somewhere? I mean, 30, 40 minutes went by. Finally, they left. With a quick move, Jesus was gone again. So, knowing that the hay doesn't work, up on the top shelf doesn't work, I took Jesus and put him in my car. And I thought, this is wrong. I am a sinner. I should not do this. But it's biblical. It's biblical because if you think about it, Mary and Joseph, Jesus went for that ride. You know, it's at least a 3-day donkey ride from where they were living all the way to Bethlehem. And they went to Bethlehem because they needed to go to their ancestral home because there was going to be a census. You know, what that means is everyone over 12 years old has to register so they can be taxed by the government. So they took this 3-day journey, you know, to Bethlehem. And so I thought, well, I'm going to Bethlehem for 3 straight days. I'll take Jesus with me. And I did. And then once they were in that manger, because there was no, in the stable, there was no room in the inn. We know the story. Well, in today's passage, we hear that Jesus was born, but then he was in a home. And that would make sense that they moved out of the stable into a home because people were coming in for a census. It's not like Disney World. They're not staying. They're just coming, registering, and going back where they came from. So they probably moved to a home. So I then took Jesus out of the car into my home. And then, you know that after 8 days, Jesus was circumcised. And so, okay, I looked at my schedule and I thought, I'll take him over to Arlington, because that would be a new place he'll go to. And so, as they had him circumcised, I moved Jesus once again. And then from 40 days, it takes 40 days from the birth of a child to when the mother can go to the temple. And then she can be blessed. And so I thought, well, that's kind of a big deal to go to the temple because that's in Jerusalem. So I took Jesus to the District of Columbia, to the capital even. I thought that was appropriate. So I was doing as much biblical, research and following the scriptures as much as I could. Jesus was traveling in the scriptures, so he was traveling with me. Do you know the anxiety of travel when you have a horse-winged Jesus with you? And you're a clumsy-handed guy. And so I thought about Mary and Joseph and their travel. Because they were not at peace during any of this, were they? I mean, would anyone here want to have your baby in a manger? No. Would any of you want to travel your baby this much, a newborn, out in public, again and again? And then for Joseph to hear in a dream that he's not safe there, and that he has to travel all the way to Egypt. We're talking weeks, if not months, journey with a newborn baby. I felt what they felt, because every time I looked down, I thought, oh, please don't break. If I break Jesus, this will never work. And so I understood their angst and their concern. After 2 years, you know the story, they were able to come back. Because Joseph heard it in a dream. Those who want to harm Jesus are gone. Herod had died. You can come home. But he couldn't come home. He wanted his ancestral home would have been Bethlehem. But Archelaus, Herod's son, is now the leader there. And so that's why he went to this little nondescript town called Nazareth. And that's why I took Jesus to this little nondescript area of Arlington called Clarion. I just lived the whole biblical story, and I felt what these new parents must be feeling, caring for one so precious and so revered. And yet, as we hear the parents say, I just pondered these things in my heart. So I pondered them as well, and I kept coming back to the question, where's Jesus? Well, on Christmas Day, I know where Jesus was. Because I got my 2 daughters out of the house up early. I said, we've got to take Jesus back. And we went to the church. It was locked. My God, my key didn't fit the first door. And I thought, I'm going to have to strap baby Jesus on the front door with that. We went to the side door, we put him in the manger, and there was a bit of peace. But only for a moment. Because I thought, I have lived this Advent season with a real expectation, with a real search, with a real honest, heartfelt longing for Jesus. And there were those who wanted to put him in a certain place, and that was it. He's in the manger, and then I think, like I admitted to you, they just forgot about him and they moved on. And I think we Christians are sometimes just as bad as those secular folks. And we miss the entire season getting caught up in just life. I said to many of my friends this Christmas season, it's not like anybody takes out anything from our schedule so that we can add on all the things that we church folks want to do. Right? I mean, we add on extra services, extra duties, extra responsibilities, extra expectations, but you still have to work. You still have to go to school. The exams still come. And then family comes. And they don't say, oh, let me do that for you. They say, oh, we also need to do this, this, and this. And so we put upon ourselves a lot of stress during the season. So the question in my mind, where is Jesus, is a solid one. Now, I walked around the church this morning to see if I could find Jesus. I couldn't. Where's Jesus? I want you to know that this whole traveling, stealing Jesus, trying to get Jesus back thing was only one part of my eventful Christmas season. Another part was the story that I heard early on in the season and has lived with me since, and I want to share with you. The story is some businessmen were traveling, but they needed to travel home, and they were late. So, much like you and I, they packed, they rushed, and they're running down the concourse trying to get to their gate. They're looking at their watches, realizing, run fast. As they go, they happen to bump into a table stand full of apples. But they don't stop because they've got to get to their gate and get on the plane to make their flight. They don't stop except that is for one. Because the one fellow realized that when they had knocked the table, the apples then began cascading off. And he felt badly for that, and he just said to the guys, go on, call my wife, tell her I'll come the next flight. And he turned to see just a concourse full of apples now, and a young girl attempting, groping to try to pick them up. When he went back, he realized that she was blind. So here's this young 16, 17-year-old woman, tears running down her cheeks, trying to find these apples. And so he let her know he was there, and he began to pick them up. As he put them back on the table, he noticed that a number of them were now bruised and cut. So he put them over on the side. And as he got them all up, he took his wallet, and he gave her $40 and said, I'm so sorry for the trouble that we've caused you. I hope we have not ruined too much. But for those that we have, please, here's $40. And she looked at him and said, Mister, are you Jesus? And he goes, no, I am not Jesus. Jesus would not have been rushing the way we were. Jesus would not have missed seeing you. Jesus would not have bumped into you and ruined half of what you got. No, I'm nothing like Jesus. And she says, well, you must be a friend of his then, because I just prayed for him to help me. And he sent you here. Where's Jesus? Was on my mind. I heard the story. And then lived the Advent season with Jesus in my car. And I thought, where's Jesus? Jesus is not a porcelain figure that we transport from place to place that was put in the manger. Jesus is this embodiment of us. We take on characteristics of Christ. We are Christ, some people. The only Christ they'll ever know. The only Bible they'll ever read is how we live. What we say, what we don't say. That was just the second of the eventful things of this Christmas season. The third was the movie The Garden. Have you seen it? Kevin Costner, one of my favorite actors, plays senior chief. He is a United States Coast Guard swim instructor. And so these Coast Guard swimmers, they go out in helicopters in the worst conditions, and they rescue those who have been capsized or have trouble on their boats and need rescue. And so in the scene that I want to share with you this morning, Kevin Costner is at the end of the movie. He has finally retired. He has taught a whole new class of recruits. And he's got one, Kushner, Ashton Kushner, who is Jake Fisher. He's got one who is exemplary and has broken all the records kind of thing, a great swimmer, but who has now gone through senior chief's training and is now well trained to go out onto, the worst case scenarios. And so in this case, the fish, is what his nickname is, Jake Fisher, he's already down at the boat, and he's down with the captain. Senior chief, again retired, is called out of retirement to come and help. So he flies out in the helicopter. He gets into the situation, into the water, in the boat, and now they've already rescued the captain of the ship and those others who are on ship, and now it's their turn to be lifted to the helicopter. Take a look.
Oh, what? Hang on. You told me.
I thought you were going fishing! Wait till
The Coast Guard conducted one of the largest search and rescue missions for a single man in its history. The body of Senior Chief Ben Randall was never found. What makes a legend? Is it what someone did when they were alive? Or how they're remembered after they're gone? Some people actually believe Senior Chief made the swim to the Aleutian Islands, standing on a distant beach somewhere with a fishing pole in his hand. But I found my answer a couple weeks later.
Where is he?
Huh?
Somebody else out there, man.
No, he was there. He was with me the whole time. He said he would hold on till help arrived. He never let go.
It's a legend of a man who lives beneath the sea. He's a fisher of men, a last hope for all those who have been left behind. He is known as the Guardian.
I tell you what, you take Jesus seriously, and Jesus lives in you. We are the guardian, really, for one another. Christ lives in us, and we are Christ in each other. You take Jesus, literally, like in your hand, in your car, and you see movies like this. You start looking at people differently. And I saw the face of Christ again and again. I didn't see the craziness of the Christmas rush. And I saw people sharing parking spots and helping each other. It was a whole new Christmas season for me because I was looking for Jesus. Well, to cap it off, then I went to see that little play called Les Miserables. And then last night, just to hammer it home, I saw the movie. I don't recommend movies very often, but you know, that's a movie that's worth seeing. At the end of the movie, three main singers are all saying the same thing. To help another person, to love another person, is to see the face of God. Today is December 30th. We're about to start a new year. I want to encourage you with this message and these images to think how you can find Jesus in your life, in yourself and in those around you. To recognize that Jesus is alive and he is on the move. It's probably true that he's on the move in you. Would you pray with me? Gracious Lord, I thank you for the Christmas season that we have experienced and we continue in because Christmas is not over. Christmas season, Lord, goes all the way to January 6th. And I pray long after. And I just pray that your Holy Spirit would move in each of us, that we could stand up and not look back in regret, not look down in shame, and never let go. Never let go of you. Lord, live in us, we pray. In Christ's name, amen. Listen, let's stand together. Let's sing our closing hymn, hymn number 40, Let the Whole Creation Cry.